factor, because there's that as well, you know, there's all of the other ways in which we can look at it and think about it, but there's also just the sense, the feeling of this is larger, this is bigger than, this is powerful. Significance, I think. A place called Paju Book City in South Korea, just outside of Seoul. Incredible concept, incredible idea. What the Koreans have done is that they've built an industrial city specifically focused on the planning, production and distribution of books. So they've created a city that is a book city. It's called Paju, but it's Paju Book City. And what you'll find is that it's a hub of documenting their stories and creating their stories and ensuring that there's a legacy of books, of their histories, according to them, of their ideas. What's also interesting is that every aspect of the city was just so meticulously planned that the city, the way it's designed, the actual space itself is very interesting because the culture is, the architecture, edgy, quite minimalist, but inspiring. I mean, they have the most craziest buildings I've ever seen. Really, really interesting, really beautiful stuff going on there. And they say that for them, the landscape, the space itself was just as important as what they were trying to do within the space. So they looked at the fact that when you make books, you think about design. Design is a part of that. And so they wanted to extend that kind of thinking to designing the space itself and the landscape, and it shows. That's something that had that aha spark for me. Usual suspects. Kevin Spacey in the character of Verbal Kent, and the moment when, you know, although you're wondering at that stage, the moment that, you know, the moment that I'm going to talk about, where it was placed in the film, the experience that you've already had as the viewer, and what's happening in that moment, and then what he says, and the sheer mass, there was just the largeness to the line when he said the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world that he didn't exist. And then everything else that follows, you know, on there, because then you find out that he is Kaiser Soze, you know. So that has always, I mean, every time I watch that film, I take a moment there. I just almost feel like it was almost like a point of gravity for me for the whole story. Like it's centered around that line and that moment, and just the sheer genius of it, really. So that's from a genius perspective, where I was just like constructed brilliantly. Wise, Zabalaza. It's a classic album as far as I'm concerned. It's a classic not only for how accomplished the product was in terms of how craft it was well produced, well executed, a really incredible solo, you know, a debut, a really incredible, you know, stepping out from Bubble Muffin. But I think the other reason that Zabalaza is so significant for me is when you look at the time Zabalaza came out, you look at where we were as a country, you look at where we were as young people, and also if you look at the sonic landscape, what was the sound of the time, what was the sound of young and new South Africa. For me, it's almost as though she was the beginning of something. She represented something, and she represented a shift, a movement, and perhaps also the voice of young black South Africa moving forward. You know, her decision, the choices that she made, you know, her decision, because she's got an incredible instrument in her voice, and she's an incredible mind and an incredible spirit. But the choices as an artist that she made, and the statement she wanted to make with her album was incredible. And I think that it will stand the test of time, surely. And I think that you listen to that album, and every time you listen to it, it's like the first time you're experiencing it, really, you know. So just from that perspective, also from craft, that it was a really, really